Okay, so good morning everybody. Today we're at Salon de Clichy. This is one of the most popular perfume brands in Saudi Arabia and in the Gulf. The museum is closed, but we have a wonderful store here. So I thought I would just walk around and show people what is this place like, what is perfume like in the Arab world. It is probably one of the nicest things I've ever had in my life. So let's have a look here. Yesterday I bought myself this is a kind of oil which you will rub on your skin, and you sort of, as I said in one of my previous videos, you layer. I also have, this is a very common perfume, the Heritage Blend, شو خلطوا التراث. This is very common, beautiful crystal bottle. So you will use the oil on your skin and you will then spray perfume on top. So a place like this, I mean, you know, they probably do custom blends as well. Very beautiful. I remember when I lived in Jordan, we had a lot of this. So you have here different types of perfume as well. Very nice. And I also want to show you all wood burners. I discussed that in one of my previous videos. So if we keep going, let's have a look here. Yes, so here, for example, this is an oud or incense burner, which is used for agar wood, which is usually soaked in oil, and it is then burned to create a fragrance in the home. Very beautiful. And here are some of the wood in question. So here we have different types of bakhur that you can burn in your home. It's a beautiful store. Okay, so I wanted to show you all. This is one of my passions. This is oud or bakhur. This is the incense. So we're now going to buy these two here. This one is with cardamom, I believe. Really beautiful smell. And this is another one that we're going to look at. Really wonderful stuff. So you can see the size of the store here. It's a very large store overall. And I'm very happy with my purchase. So if you come to the Gulf, if you come to the Middle East, you come to Saudi Arabia, check out the perfumes, check out the oud. It's amazing. It's absolutely beautiful. Okay, so we've made an unplanned stop at a mall before we move on. I'm actually at a place called Salon de Clichy, which is Turk. So here we have Turkey or Turkish coffee. This one is flavored with chocolate. Always comes with water, just like at home. And then here are these beautiful pieces. This is Turkish delight covered in chocolate or in candy. So we had milk chocolate, but I ate it. And we have white chocolate here, and then sort of beautiful pink layering as well. Really wonderful place. I definitely recommend it, and I definitely recommend it in Istanbul as well. So here we have an ad for the kind of coffees they do, a voyage of indulgence. So here we have, these are all Turkish coffees. We have here, this is, I believe, cinnamon, followed by traditional Turkish coffee, which we've had a lot in Istanbul. And then over here, cardamom. Cardamom is very common in the Arab world for Arabic coffee as well. And it is absolutely delicious. And there's the machine right there, so absolutely wonderful place. Definitely a nice little surprise. So we've finally made it to the National Museum. So we're going to start with the first exhibit, Man and the Universe. Let's go. Let's see what the National Museum has to offer us. So this is one of the earliest stone panels discovered in Arabia, erected in the 4th millennium BC. Various ancient symbols here represent changing civilizations across the region. So this is very interesting. And over here we have the earliest writing, Bidayat al-Kitaba, the earliest writing systems, 3,500 BC Mesopotamia, and also in Egypt. So here we have some interesting artifacts. So the idea of hieroglyphs and whatnot, very interesting. So by about 1000 BC we had alphabets developing in Arabia. We saw the development of Phoenician, and from this we have Moabite, Hebrew, Amani, and Aramaic as well. So for example here, this particular item has Aramaic script written. Then we have what would be called Farsi script. And here, Lihyanite script from roughly the 3rd century BC in Al-Madinah. This should be very interesting. Here we have a gallery on Arabian kingdoms, so the development of kingdoms across what we would call Arabia. This looks like a very interesting gallery, so we're moving on from the writing system to kingdoms. This section here is called Arabs Enter History. Here we have an example of an Assyrian relief. It's explained that Assyrian scribes recount battles in which princes and sheikhs formed coalitions to oppose invading armies. That's interesting because we need to remember that modern nationalism, after the Ottoman era, we saw various Arab princes, including the Hashemites, come together to oppose Ottomans and then create their own, what we would call now modern states. So we see this notion of nationalism through resistance. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. So moving on to one of the next exhibits called Jahiliyyah, we have here a depiction of the caravan trading route. So let's remember that in Arabia, trade was a huge catalyst for the development of cities and of course eventually states as well. Hada al-Jahiliyyah. So this is the pre-Islamic period that we're going to now check out. Should be very, very interesting. Here we have a map of pre-Islamic Arabia showing the Arabian Gulf, Al-Khalij Arabi, Al-Khalij Oman, the Gulf of Oman, and showing various kingdoms, if you like, that were birthed before Islam arrived. It's claimed that at the time, many of these kingdoms, they had various cultural commonalities. Up here, for example, you see Al-Quds, Jerusalem, you see Damascus, Palmyra. And so the idea that they would be united by a common religion as well is a very interesting concept. Another interesting example of the politics of religion. So we had polytheism, we had different religions and different areas of pilgrimage. So one of the things that Islam did is it reorganized everything into one religion, which of course meant that you had Mecca as the center of that religion, as opposed to several places because of several different faiths. So as if to build on my previous point, it even says here, this is the exhibit for Islamic Arabia, that when Islam arrived, it was meant to unite all kingdoms, all peoples, so that Islam would also provide political unity instead of rivalry through tribalism. So that's a very interesting point when you look at the way the Middle East is structured, the way Arab states are structured, and how tribalism remains a part of various Arab cultures even up to today. So here we have the Ottoman Al-Muwaili fort, which was on the Hajj route, I believe. It belonged to Suleiman the Magnificent, who of course is one of the most well-known Ottoman sultans. I believe he was the 10th sultan of the Ottoman Empire. So here we see that the museum also encompasses Ottoman history. There's a copy of the Quran, handwritten, a replica, with a note that the original is actually in a museum in Topkapi in Istanbul. So very, very interesting right there. I will say also walking through this museum, I'm pretty much alone, got the place to myself, and that's a rarity when you go anywhere on vacation. You usually would not have a place to yourself at all. And it's very interesting to see the way that they've split the museum into different periods, so pre-Islamic, beginning of Islam, and also the Ottoman presence in the Middle East. Okay, so we're now going to enter the gallery on the first and second Saudi states, which of course links or connects to our first day in Al-Daraya yesterday, where we saw the remnants of the former Saudi capital. So in we go. So this is a photo of Al-Daraya, what it would look like, from a bird's eye point of view. It's a shame we couldn't get up close when we went there, but again, there are plans to expand Al-Daraya to open it further to the public and for tourism and whatnot. And as a remnant of the first Saudi state, it's, I'm sure, a fascinating place to go back to. Here we have a model of the historical city of Riyadh from 1918 AD. I also want to point out, regarding the trip to Diriyah, if we have a look around, the room here has been constructed to replicate the look of Diriyah and perhaps the look of the Murabba Palace as well. A very similar appearance, which I'm sure has been done intentionally. It's very interesting. There's also a section here about liberating the Hijaz. Now, the Hijaz is an interesting topic because I know from my time in Jordan that the Hashemites, some of them ruled over parts of what are now Saudi Arabia. They were eventually expelled and forced out. And so today, next to Saudi Arabia, we have the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. But the Hijaz was actually Hashemite territory for a while, also Iraq, until the rise of the Ba'ath Party in that country, which of course eventually saw the rise of Saddam Hussein. So it's interesting that there's a section here about oil exploration, because of course Saudi Arabia is an oil state, but unlike in, for example, Kuwait or in Oman, it seems that this section is one of the last sections of the National Museum. In Kuwait, it, if I remember correctly, was presented earlier in the museum. Oman has a separate museum for oil and gas, so this is very, very interesting that in Saudi Arabia here, the National Museum has an oil and gas section, which comes after discussion of religion, after discussion of Saudi unification. So really, there's presentations here of history of Saudi Arabia, which is seen as, to a large extent, independent of oil. In this section, there is a gallery dedicated to the Hajj, described as the journey of a lifetime. And there are many who feel that this is a spiritual journey and an emotional one. There are people who save their entire lives to be able to go on Hajj or on pilgrimage to Mecca, to be unified by their faith, and any opportunity to show the world what that means, I think, is wonderful. Again, it's also a symbol of what we would call religious legitimacy, because Saudi Arabia, of course, is custodian of Mecca, which is the holiest site of Islam. And here we have a description of the Hajj itself, the Kaaba, and the walk 7 times between the 2 mountains Al-Safa and Al-Marwa as well. Very, very fascinating. Hajj and Umrah are seen by many Muslims, I think, as the most spiritually satisfying experience you can have in your faith. Here we have the history of Mecca and a model, a beautiful model here, vast, all-encompassing, lit up. For many who are interested in Saudi Arabia and the Muslim faith, this is as close as they will ever get. But this model here is, of course, designed to allow all to understand more about Mecca's history, its religious significance and importance, the importance of the Hajj and Umrah, the lesser pilgrimage, if I may use that term. So this is a vast, albeit of course scaled model of, I believe, the mosque at Mecca, which is lit up and viewed by so many around the world as an essential part of their religious gratification. And of course at the center of Mecca's mosque will be the Kaaba. This here is the Kaaba door curtain, beautifully ordained, black and gold with Arabic calligraphy. And as with the gallery for Mecca, for the gallery on Medina, we have here a beautiful scaled lit model of the Prophet's Mosque in Medina. Truly amazing. Again, the minarets are lit, symbolizing perhaps the spiritual light that followers of faith feel. This is again an impressive model that allows visitors to Saudi Arabia and to Riyadh, of all faiths or no faiths, to explore and understand the history of Islam and how it is tied to the Saudi state. Truly spectacular. Truly amazing. A further gallery discusses how to meet the needs of Hajj, and I just want to show you all the crowds that you see. These are photos, of course, but the crowds you will see regarding Hajj. So we see here, as Islam has expanded and there have also been converts, we see here how Hajj has become probably one of the biggest, most challenging events in the world to organize, to control, to ensure that there isn't overcrowding in Mecca, for example. And this is one of the reasons why Saudi Arabia recently was forced to ban travelers and even its own citizens from Mecca because of the coronavirus, for deep cleaning and whatnot. That is a challenge to religious legitimacy, but it was a necessary step that was taken to ensure that any infections could be contained, because at an event like this, the number of people we're talking about, not taking that move could have risked further and further spread of the coronavirus.